When people ask me about success, they always expect me to talk about hard work, passion, and dreams. And yes, those things matter, but they are not the real story. The truth nobody likes to say out loud, is that the successful follow rules most people would never accept. These rules are uncomfortable. They are unfair. They are what I call the forbidden rules, not because they are illegal or immoral, but because they expose how the world actually works, not how people wish it worked. When I look back at my own journey, from being rejected by KFC to being turned down by every investor in Silicon Valley, I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty: success is built on truths people don't want to hear. I learned early that the world doesn't reward innocence. It rewards awareness. It rewards people who can see the game beneath the surface. Most people fail because they rely on the story society tells them: work hard and everything will be fine. No. If that were true, the hardest workers in the world would be the richest. What separates winners from everyone else is that winners quietly discover the hidden rules and act on them, while everyone else argues about fairness. Failure is a stepping stone, yes, but only if you learn the real lesson behind the failure, not the comforting one. I remember the first time I realized this. I was sitting on a cheap plastic chair in a tiny office in Hangzhou, and someone told me kindly, almost politely, "Jack, your idea will never work." You see, most people think rejection is about their skills or intelligence, but rejection often reveals something deeper. People don't believe in you because you threaten the world they are comfortable living in. The moment I understood this, I stopped seeking approval. I stopped explaining myself, and that was the moment my life started to change. The reason successful people rarely talk about these rules is simple. They know most people wouldn't accept them. They sound too harsh, too sharp, too unpolished. They go against everything society teaches you about being nice, being modest, being patient. But I will tell you something I learned the hard way. Patience is not waiting. Patience is preparing. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And preparation, real preparation, means understanding the forbidden truths behind success. So the first rule is this: if you want uncommon results, you must embrace uncommon truths. You must accept that the world is not moved by your intentions, it is moved by your strategies. You must be willing to see what others refuse to see, and you must be willing to follow the rules that the successful follow in silence. Because the moment you learn these rules, you stop being controlled by the world, and you start controlling your direction in it. When I look back at my early years, I realized something powerful. Long before I earned any money, long before people respected me, I learned to protect the only resource I truly had: my inner world. People think success starts with talent or opportunity, but that's not true. Success starts with emotional control. And this is the first forbidden rule, because most people don't want to accept how much of their life they give away simply by reacting to every opinion, every insult, every small disturbance around them. I learned this lesson not because I was wise, but because I was tired of letting other people's doubts drain me. You see, when I was rejected by dozens of companies, including KFC, people around me laughed. They said I wasn't smart enough, strong enough, or talented enough. They weren't trying to be cruel. They were simply projecting their own fears. Most people don't understand the weight of their words, and even more people don't understand how sensitive your dream is in its early stages. So I made a decision. If my dream was fragile, then I had to stop exposing it to destructive environments. Emotional control became my shield, and protecting my mind became more important than impressing anyone. I often tell young people, keep a calm heart, and they think it means to be passive or gentle. But the truth behind my phrase is much sharper. Calmness is a weapon. Calmness is not softness, it is strength. It means you refuse to let the noise of complainers shape your direction. It means you walk away from arguments that don't matter. It means you stop trying to fix people who refuse to fix themselves. Winners guard their emotional environment like territory because they know that chaos destroys dreams faster than failure ever will. I had friends, good people, but they were addicted to drama. Every day they brought me problems that were not solutions-based, but emotion-based. One day I realized something painful. Every minute I spent on their emotional storms was a minute stolen from my future. And that is when I learned the truth. The successful rarely confess publicly. You must cut emotional parasites early, not because you don't care about them, but because their chaos prevents you from becoming the person who could help them later. Discipline isn't just about what you do. It's about what you refuse to allow into your mind. People love to say, surround yourself with positive people, but they forget the other half of the rule. You must distance yourself from destructive people. Even if they're friends, even if they're family, even if it feels cold, because your future is built by the stability of your inner world, not by the approval of those who never believed in you anyway. Protecting your mind is not selfish, it is survival. And once you master this rule, growth becomes faster, decisions become sharper, and success becomes inevitable. If there is one lesson I wish somebody had taught me earlier in life, it is this: never show your dream to people who cannot see. When I was young, I used to tell everyone my ideas. I thought sharing my dreams would inspire people or attract support. But instead, every time I opened my mouth, someone tried to shrink my vision down to their level. Someone questioned my ability. Someone planted doubt in a place inside me that was already fragile. This is why I say the second forbidden rule is secrecy. Not because dreams should be hidden forever, but because dreams must be protected while they are weak. Most people don't fail because their idea was bad. They fail because they shared it too early with someone emotionally small. Your dream is fragile in the beginning, like a newborn child. It doesn't have strength yet, it doesn't have results yet, and it definitely doesn't have the power to stand up against criticism. When I first tried to raise funding for Alibaba, almost every meeting ended the same way: polite smiles, quick dismissals, and comments like, "Jack, the internet isn't for China." If I had listened, or worse, if I had believed them, Alibaba would have died before it even began. The world tries to destroy what it doesn't understand. This is the part nobody admits. People feel threatened when you aim higher than they do. Not because they dislike you, but because your ambition forces them to confront their own choices. So they push you to stay small. They call it advice, but it's actually fear disguised as wisdom. Successful people understand this instinctively. That's why they move silently. They don't announce their plans. They don't brag about the steps they're taking. They don't post their progress for strangers to judge. They simply build in private until the results are undeniable. You cannot imagine how many breakthroughs in my life came from staying quiet. When we were working on the early versions of Alibaba, people around us had no idea what we were doing. They thought we were wasting time. They thought we were chasing fantasies. But silence protected us. Silence gave us room to make mistakes without public humiliation. Silence allowed us to improve in the dark so we could win in the light. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but preparation requires privacy. People say, speak your goals into existence. But I learned something the hard way. The more you talk, the less you do. Talking gives you a false sense of accomplishment. It tricks the brain into feeling progress when no progress has been made. That is why the successful keep their moves hidden until they are complete. They let their actions speak for them. They let results silence the doubters. They give their critics no opportunity to sabotage their momentum. So remember this: your silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Your secrecy is not fear, it is protection. Build quietly, strengthen your idea privately, and let the world see only the finished version. Because the moment you reveal your dream too early, you hand your power over to people who never built anything themselves. When people look at successful individuals, they often imagine we were surrounded by support, encouragement, and like-minded visionaries. But that is not the truth. In the early days of my journey, the people around me were not dreamers, they were survivors. Good people, hardworking people, but people who lived inside the boundaries society gave them. And if I'm honest, I almost became one of them. The comfortable majority doesn't hate ambition, they simply don't understand it. And anything people don't understand, they try to simplify, shrink, or dismiss. This is why one of the forbidden rules of success is learning to distance yourself from the majority. Deliberately, intentionally, even painfully. I learned this rule slowly. When I was younger, I tried to fit in. I tried to think the way everyone else thought. I tried to believe that having a stable job and a predictable life was all I should want. After all, that's what everyone around me believed. But deep inside, something felt wrong. Not because a simple life is bad, but because it wasn't my life. I watched many talented people settle for less, not because they weren't capable of more, but because comfort was seductive. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels logical. But comfort is also the silent killer of potential. The more I observed, the clearer it became. The average person doesn't chase growth. They chase relief. They want to avoid pain, avoid risk, avoid criticism. They want the illusion of stability. But success requires instability. It requires uncertainty. It requires being willing to lose what the majority works their whole life to protect. Winners separate themselves from the majority, not because they think they are better, but because they understand that the mindset of the majority cannot create extraordinary results. There were days when I felt lonely, when I questioned myself, when I thought maybe the majority was right. But each time I looked at the path they were walking, I realized something. If I followed them, I would end up exactly where they were. And that terrified me more than failure. So I embraced the loneliness. I embraced being different. I embraced being misunderstood. Loneliness is temporary, but regret is permanent. Many people love the idea of success, but cannot endure the isolation that builds it. People often tell me, Jack, you make it sound like success means abandoning people. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying you cannot grow if you are surrounded by people who fear growth. You cannot think big while living in an environment built for small thinking. The majority thinks in straight lines. The successful think in possibilities. The majority works for comfort. The successful work for purpose. And purpose requires decisions that the majority will never approve of. In the end, rejecting the comfortable majority is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of responsibility. You owe it to your future self to escape the gravitational pull of ordinary thinking. Because if you stay where everyone else stays, you will get what everyone else gets. And deep down, you know you were meant for more than that. When people hear that I was rejected from 30 jobs, including KFC, they always laugh and say, Jack, that must have been painful. And yes, it hurt. I am human. But what most people don't understand is this. Every rejection that embarrassed me also educated me. Every no became a seed. Every failure became fuel. The world teaches you to avoid rejection, but the successful learn to convert it. That is the forbidden rule. Rejection is not something you survive. It is something you sharpen yourself with. Most people crumble when they hear no. Winners collect the no's and use them like ammunition. In my early years, I didn't understand this. I took every rejection personally. I thought it meant I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough, that maybe my dreams were unrealistic. I remember one interview where the manager spoke to the others politely, but when it was my turn, he said, "We don't think you fit here. Not you're not qualified, not we don't have a position, just you don't fit." That sentence lived in my mind for years, but instead of letting it break me, I let it mold me. Failure is a stepping stone, but only if you stand on it, not drown under it. There's a truth most successful people won't admit. They use rejection as motivation. They let it sting just enough to push them harder. When someone tells you that you can't do something, they are giving you the greatest gift, a reason to grow, a reason to focus, a reason to rise above. Every entrepreneur I've met has a story of humiliation that turned into hunger. Not sadness, hunger. That hunger creates discipline, and discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Without rejection, your ambition stays soft. Rejection makes it sharp. When I started Alibaba, investors rejected us again and again. Some laughed, some said the business model was pointless, some didn't even let me finish my sentence. And each time I walked out of those rooms, I told myself, good. Now I know where to improve. Now I know what to build. Now I know who will regret this later, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Rejection gives you clarity. It shows you what the world truly thinks. And if you learn to listen without letting it crush you, rejection becomes a map. The average person lets rejection define their identity. Winners let rejection refine their strategy. That's the difference. When life says no, most people give up. But the successful understand something the majority never learns. Rejection is proof you're moving. You cannot be rejected if you're standing still. You cannot be denied if you never attempt anything. So every no means you tried. Every no means you're getting closer. Every no means you are becoming the person capable of hearing a yes. So let the world reject you. Let the world underestimate you. Let the world doubt you. Because one day, the same people who dismissed you will ask how you did it, and your answer will be simple. I used every rejection as fuel. The forbidden truth is this: rejection is not the enemy. It is the evidence that you are on the right path. When people ask me about success, they expect me to talk about strategy, innovation, or technology, but very few expect me to talk about people. Yet this may be the most important forbidden rule of all. You see, your life does not fail because of your dreams. It fails because of your environment. The wrong people can slow your progress faster than the right strategy can accelerate it. And the truth most successful individuals never admit is simple. Winners cut the wrong people early, long before those people become anchors. It sounds harsh, I know. But the world rewards clarity, not sentiment. In my early days, I surrounded myself with friends who were kind but small-minded. They didn't wish me harm, but their thinking was limited and their fears were loud. I remember telling one friend my idea for an online marketplace. Instead of asking how it could work, he immediately told me why it wouldn't. Jack, you don't know technology. Jack, nobody in China trusts online payment. Jack, you're dreaming too big. And for a while, I believed him. You see, negativity doesn't always sound like criticism. Sometimes it sounds like concern. Sometimes it sounds like friendship. But it still kills dreams slowly. Over time, I learned that your circle determines your ceiling. You can only rise as high as the people you allow around you. Winners understand this instinctively, but they rarely talk about it because it makes them look cold. But let me tell you the truth from experience. The most emotional damage I ever took came from trying to drag the wrong people into my future. They weren't bad people. They were just the wrong people for the path I needed to walk. And discipline is not only about what you do, it is about who you refuse to let drain your energy. When I built Alibaba, I began choosing my team differently. I stopped valuing loyalty alone and started valuing mindset. I stopped keeping people around just because they had been there a long time. That's a mistake many leaders make. They stay loyal to relationships that no longer serve their mission, and then they wonder why their progress slows. Winners, on the other hand, eliminate emotional deadweight early, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. You cannot build a skyscraper with people who are comfortable living in a tent. The average person thinks cutting people is heartless. But what is truly heartless is allowing someone's negativity to destroy your potential. What is truly heartless is sacrificing your future so you can avoid an uncomfortable conversation. If there is anything I have learned, it is this: emotional boundaries are a form of self-respect, and self-respect is a form of power. The wrong people weaken that power. They cause doubt. They consume energy. They add chaos. And chaos is the enemy of growth. So understand this: success is not only about choosing the right opportunities, it is about choosing the right people. Don't wait until someone becomes a problem. Don't wait until they poison your momentum. Winners cut early, cut cleanly, and cut confidently. Not because they are cold, but because they are focused. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. And you cannot be a doer if you spend your life trying to fix people who don't want to grow. You've heard this story 1,000 times, but never like this. People talk about Thomas Edison failing 1,000 times as if it's just a cute motivational quote. But Jack Ma looks at it differently. Edison didn't fail 1,000 times. He collected 1,000 data points that everyone else was too weak to endure. Every failure was a measurement. Every setback was intelligence gathered. Every mistake was proof that ordinary people quit too early. Jack Ma says the world keeps repeating Edison's story because it wants you inspired, but not dangerous. It wants you to admire the persistence, not replicate it. Why? Because a person who keeps going after 100 failures becomes unpredictable, uncontrollable, and unstoppable. A society built on comfort can't handle people with that level of emotional endurance. Edison succeeded because he treated failure like oxygen, not poison. He didn't cry, complain, or collapse. He didn't interpret struggle as a sign to stop. He treated every setback like a scientist, calm, curious, focused. And here's the forbidden truth. Most people are not destroyed by failure. They are destroyed by the emotions they attach to failure. They quit because it hurts their ego, their reputation, their image. They quit because they cannot handle being misunderstood, judged, or ridiculed. Edison didn't need approval. He didn't need permission. He didn't need applause. He kept going because the mission mattered more than his feelings. Jack Ma says, if 1,000 failures scare you, success will destroy you, because success demands more pressure, more responsibility, more public judgment, more sacrifice. If you crumble in the trial phase, you will shatter in the victory phase. This is why the successful don't talk about this rule openly. The world's winners are simply those who are emotionally built to outlast discomfort longer than everyone else. Not smarter, not luckier, not more talented, just more willing to bleed for the outcome. If you want to join the top 1%, you must stop worshiping Edison's story and start replicating it. Fail 10 times, fail 50 times, fail 200 times. Collect data, strengthen your spirit, and break the emotional habits that keep you fragile. The story is famous for a reason, but the lesson is forbidden for a reason too. Once you absorb it, you become unstoppable. Most people think success is a simple formula: work hard, follow the rules, and eventually you'll get ahead. But I learned early in my journey that the rules the majority follows are designed for the average, not the extraordinary. Winners don't play the same game as everyone else. They operate on a different level, quietly, strategically, and often invisibly. And this is one of the forbidden rules the successful never talk about. While the crowd argues, complains, or seeks validation, winners are thinking 10 steps ahead, making moves that nobody notices until it's too late. When I first started Alibaba, I noticed something fascinating. The companies around us, the competitors, were focused on being liked, on pleasing investors, on looking respectable. They were reacting to every small threat, every rumor, every public opinion. Meanwhile, we were quiet. We were deliberate. We were building silently, making mistakes in private, testing ideas nobody else could see, and iterating faster than anyone imagined. People called us naive. People called us crazy. But what they didn't realize was that we were playing a different game, a long-term game where reputation comes from results, not chatter. The secret I found is humility. And here's the forbidden part. Humility isn't just a virtue, it's a weapon. When people see a humble entrepreneur, they underestimate them. They assume you are weak, inexperienced, or passive. But inside, winners are making bold moves, breaking conventions, and preparing for moments that will define history. They use humility as camouflage. While the world is busy arguing and seeking recognition, winners are quietly collecting advantages, mastering skills, and building the kind of discipline that the crowd can't imagine. I remember sitting in small, empty offices, working late into the night, and seeing others around me chase applause. I had a choice: join them or stick to my strategy. I chose the strategy. And that's why winners have an invisible edge. They aren't distracted by the ego-driven noise around them. They don't need praise to validate their effort. They don't measure progress by others' approval. Instead, they measure progress by results, by learning, and by how far they've come in silence. The world only notices them when they've already won, and by then it's too late to catch up. Here's the forbidden truth. If you want to win, you cannot play by the average rules. You cannot follow the same path. You cannot react to every opinion, every trend, every critic. Winners are patient, strategic, and emotionally disciplined. They think in decades, not days. They see opportunities that others dismiss. They make decisions that seem small to outsiders, but are massive in impact. The long game requires vision, restraint, and the courage to move differently than everyone else. And that is why most people never reach it, because they are too busy playing someone else's game. If you want to succeed like the top 1%, you must commit to thinking differently, acting differently, and sometimes feeling alone while others cheer for mediocrity. You must embrace silence as your ally, humility as your disguise, and patience as your weapon. Because when the world finally notices, you will not only have won, you will have become untouchable. People love the idea of success, but almost no one understands what it truly costs. Most of the world imagines wealth, fame, and respect come easily if you just work hard or have a good idea. But I've learned the forbidden rule. The successful rarely admit real success is built on sacrifices nobody sees, and the quiet ones hurt the most. These are not the dramatic, visible sacrifices that get applause. They are invisible, lonely, daily choices that no one celebrates, and yet they shape the foundation of everything you will ever achieve. When I first started Alibaba, I remember working until midnight in a tiny, cold office with only a few computers and even fewer people who believed in me. I watched my friends go out, enjoy life, relax. I couldn't. Every hour I spent socializing was an hour stolen from building something that could change everything. Most people can't endure that kind of isolation without feeling bitter or jealous. But winners know that sacrifice is not punishment. It is preparation. Quiet suffering is an investment in a future that others cannot see. I worked nights when my energy was gone, and mornings when my body screamed for rest. I watched my own family spend time without me. I watched opportunities for fun and comfort slip past, and I realized something few people ever understand. Nobody owes you understanding, and nobody owes you time. The bridge between goals and accomplishment is not paved with comfort. It is paved with consistent, invisible effort. Discipline is the silent companion of sacrifice, and it rewards only those willing to endure its hidden pain. The world applauds grand gestures like funding rounds or product launches, but those events are the visible tip of a massive iceberg. Beneath it lies the grinding repetition, the lonely nights, the doubts, the mistakes, the long hours when no one is watching. That is where winners are made. That is where the ordinary are separated from the extraordinary, while others are distracted by social validation or comfort. The successful are quietly building strength, knowledge, and resilience in private. That is the true forbidden rule. The people who succeed are willing to suffer in ways the world will never acknowledge. Even today, I remind young entrepreneurs, the cost of achievement is invisible, but the payoff is undeniable. If you want to dominate your field, you must be willing to pay that price. Work when no one sees. Learn when no one applauds. Fail when no one cares. And when the world finally takes notice, it will not be a shock. It will be the inevitable outcome of everything you silently endured. Quiet sacrifices create untouchable foundations, and those foundations carry you through challenges that would crumble the unprepared. Remember this, winners suffer privately so they can thrive publicly. They endure isolation so they can inspire change. They embrace the quiet grind so the final triumph feels unstoppable. This is not luck. This is preparation. This is a rule few will admit, but one every successful person lives by. If you can master the quiet sacrifices, you will no longer be constrained by fear, doubt, or the opinion of the average majority. If there is one truth that I have learned after decades of failures, rejections, and small victories, it is this. Success is not just what you do. It is who you become when no one is watching. Most people chase money, status, or recognition. They measure their progress by applause, by approval, by comparison. But the ultimate forbidden rule of success, the one the world's winners rarely share, is about identity. You must evolve into a person who cannot be shaken, manipulated, or distracted. You must become untouchable, not in arrogance, but in self-mastery. When I was rejected from countless jobs and ignored by investors, it would have been easy to let bitterness define me. Most people would have. Most people would have allowed the opinions, the doubts, and the failures to shape their sense of worth. But I realized early that external validation is fleeting. It comes and goes, and if your foundation depends on it, you will always wobble. Winners, however, build an internal fortress. They craft a version of themselves that is consistent, confident, and resilient, no matter the circumstances. This is why emotional control, secrecy, and quiet sacrifice are not optional. They are the building blocks of untouchability. To become untouchable, you must practice discipline beyond the visible. It is not just working hard when others are watching. It is working harder when they are not. It is thinking long-term when everyone else thinks in days. It is making sacrifices without expecting recognition. It is holding your vision steady while the majority argues, doubts, and procrastinates. Every choice you make in private shapes your capacity to operate in public with confidence and freedom. That is the invisible power of the successful. They are untouchable because they are grounded in their own character and strategy. There is a moment when a person reaches this stage, a moment where no external force can sway their decisions, no criticism can break their focus, and no temptation can distract their mission. I have seen it in entrepreneurs who started with nothing, in inventors who endured ridicule, in leaders who faced repeated betrayal. The untouchable person is not immune to pain or hardship, but they are immune to being derailed by it. They absorb the blows, learn the lessons, and move forward while the world flounders. That is the final forbidden rule. Your power is in who you are, not what you show. And once you reach that level, the rules that once seemed forbidden are no longer secrets. They are simply the way you live. Secrecy, emotional discipline, rejection, sacrifice, strategy, all of it becomes instinct. You no longer chase success. Success follows you. You no longer fear the opinions of the majority. You are guided by your own standards. You no longer wait for opportunity. You create it. Becoming untouchable is the ultimate victory because it frees you from the world's constraints while allowing you to command your own destiny. Remember, the forbidden rules are only hidden because most people are unwilling to accept them. But when you embrace them fully, when you integrate them into your identity, you become unstoppable. You become untouchable. And at that moment, success is no longer a dream. It is your reality.